Welcome to today's episode, CEO Energy and Human Design, aligning your business for success with Rebecca, a soul alignment coach who helps creative entrepreneurs shift from doubt and overwhelm to clarity and confidence in their business. She specializes in guiding clients through transitions, redefining their vision, and unlocking new opportunities through alignment and introspection. Her work empowers entrepreneurs to trust their priorities, create space for growth, and achieve greater impact with ease. Welcome, Rebecca. Welcome to the Awakened Mama.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. I have been learning all about human design from one of my mentors, and it's just been so eye-opening. So I'm really excited to have you here to share some things with everyone and how we apply it to our everyday lives, just to give people a bit of an insight. So if they're curious, they can lean into looking at their human design. And I will put a link down in the show notes. So for everyone listening, head down to the link and you can go and check out what your human design profile is so that you can play along at home. So, all right. So basically there's 5 different profiles and it's a genetic blueprint basically of when we were welcomed Earthside. So I'm a generator, and can you just give us some basics and go through what the different profiles are?
Yeah, so the generator, there's also a manifesting generator. They're both sacral beings, and then there's the non-sacral beings, such as the projector, the reflector, and the manifestor. The reflectors actually are the least common. I have yet to know if I've ever met a reflector. And then
because they're like 1% of people. So like I'm curious if anyone listening is a reflector, comment below and let us know, because we'd love to chat.
We looked into the signature for the reflector because I forgot. One of them I thought was delight, but the actual word is when they're in alignment, they will be surprised, and the not self is disappointment. And I thought about that, and it makes a lot of sense because reflectors actually don't have any filled in centers. So all of the shapes in the body graph, they'll be like rectangles and squares. They will not be filled in at all. So they're fully open. It just makes sense that they would be surprised because they're relying on other people's definition, but they don't know what to expect. Therefore, let's say they're following along this person and they're like, oh man, that didn't go the way I thought it would be. And then you're disappointed. Anyway, that was a side tangent there, but I hope that helps for the 1%. Anyway, so I am a projector, and that's what I've been studying the most, aside from manifesting generator, since that is my boyfriend's type.
Awesome. So when it comes to our authority, mine is sacred. For me, it has shown me why I've always been indecisive, and it's helped me make decisions. So because I may have this, someone will ask me if I want to do something, and I'm like, and I kind of don't want to miss out, but I actually don't really want it. Maybe I just feel like I should say yes, or whatever it is at the time. And now that I know that I actually have to just listen to that full body yes, and that's helped me so much. Let's use coffee for an example. It's such a simple thing. I love coffee. I don't want 3 coffees a day. I don't want to have coffee all the time. But if someone's making a coffee, like my husband's making a coffee, he'd be like, do you want a coffee? I immediately want to say yes, because I love the smell. I love the taste. But now it's helped me so much just to say no, because I'm like, if I'm humming and hawing, obviously don't want the coffee. So now I can just say no to things so easy. So if you can explain to people the different types of authorities, and maybe it'll be a bit of an eye-opening lesson for them.
Totally. So the generator is much quicker to actually go yes or no, in my personal opinion, because as a projector, I don't have that defined center, which is the idea of sustaining life, vitality, enthusiasm, just do the thing, go, yes, no. And it's very interesting because I will very uncommonly give a yes or a no. I will have some kind of preamble or afterthought and adding to my yes or my no. In fact, I rarely actually say yes or no unless it's like just a no-brainer. So I just find that to be very interesting when I apply that to human design. So the authority for myself is the emotional, and it's the idea that we have an emotional wave. We might only have 80% clarity at any given point, There's the highs and the lows, and there's patterns that you have to go through. There's a lot of awareness in the emotional center, the solar plexus. That's the, if you look to the right at the bottom of the body graph, it's that little triangle. So there's actually 3 types of waves as well. I did not know that. So when I first learned, I wanted to understand how that works. So, you can look into that. But when I think about emotional authority, it's something to actually lean into and see, like, am I empowered by my emotions, or do I feel afraid by them? Because if you feel that, like, you can't speak your emotions, then you're going to have to decondition your emotional authority, I suppose. You have to reimagine what your inner guidance really wants to say and be open to sharing it. I've kind of reflected and realized the undefined versus the defined is very different.
I know that it's the not self theme has been big for me too. So let's play here for a little bit, because I know that it has shown me when I'm so out of alignment. Like, my not self theme as a generator is frustration. So okay, and so when I am in flow and everything is good and I'm in alignment, it's satisfaction for me on the other end of the scale. And so it's so true for me, because now I know, like, okay, if I'm frustrated, then I can shift my energy, shift to, well, what do I need to do? Like, that's frustrating. So then, what action do I need to take, or what energy can I bring to shift out of that, to bring some alignment back in? And it's really just been helpful to know that it's me and it's who I am. Like, it's my human design. I can't change it. I get frustrated. And now I know if I'm frustrated, I'm not in alignment. And it's just made things a lot easier to just to understand. I think that it's all about understanding who we are and why we are a certain way. That makes things, I want to say, easier, because it does. It seems like things flow easier when you can really understand your own genetic blueprint. So can you speak into the not self themes for people a little bit?
Yeah. So each type has their own different not self. I kind of spoke to that a little bit of the reflector. So the manifesting generator and generator both have the same signature. So it's going to be frustration and satisfaction. The manifestor will be peace and anger, which makes sense, because let's say you disturb your peace, it's probably because you're angry. So I just thought that was very logical. And then for the projector, it is success and it's bitterness. So I found that to be a little bit weird, I think, because when the average person doesn't walk around and be like, man, I'm so bitter. And it's like, you don't want to be seen as bitter, but people can be like, oh, I'm so angry, I'm so frustrated, I'm disappointed. But like, for the projector, it's bitter. I kind of found that to be funny. And when I first started digging into it, I'm like, okay, so how do I understand bitter so that bitter to me is like the top shelf, that's the extreme. But I think before bitter, you might get like resentful because you're tired of trying when you're not heard, you're not seen, you're not recognized. And the big one, you're not invited to your things that are important to you, which that is part of the strategy for the projector. You wait for the invitation. That can be and every type will wait, but it's the style of waiting that I think is different. So I could feel, and I realize in my speech, I will say I feel instead of I think or I know, or I'll be like, I imagine, I wonder. So it's very rare if I ever say I know. And my boyfriend, who is a manifesting generator, he would point out that when I'm thinking, I say I feel. Sorry, that is a sidetrack, because we're talking about bitterness and success. So when it's successful, I think you kind of feel like things are brought to you in a way that just makes a lot of sense, and it's not very hard. If you go through if you're an emotional authority, then you have to go through and be like, okay, let me not react too quickly. Let me just make sure that my excitement settles, because maybe tomorrow my energy might be different, because we don't have a defined energy center through the sacral. So you do have to sort of figure out what that process looks like for you, because everyone's going to have a different emotional system to go through.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes the person could be like really excited, really eager, like you don't know what the expectations are. You don't know like what you're walking into, and then you just sign up, and it may not even be the correct invitation. Maybe it is.
And you spoke into energy there. And I think that that's such a big part of it too, because as a generator, I have that everlasting energy. And so for me, filming this, it's nearly midnight here because we have completely different time zones. But if it was midnight your time, I wouldn't have asked that of you because we are completely different energy types when it comes to how much energy you have to put into something. And I think that is it like a 4-hour window? Is it projectors that you have to just like, but you can absolutely get what I would get done, say my all day, whatever, hours, however I'm putting into it. You can absolutely just nail it in 4 hours. Like you just go all in. That the kind of energy that a projector is?
It's a great question. And so I know that there's conversations or discussions you can find about like projectors being like non-energy, but there are some projectors that do have like more energy than others based in the centers. But for me, I have a lot of definition and awareness. Like my ajna is defined in awareness center. My solar plexus is defined. That's also an awareness center. And so is my ego or will or heart center. I forget what that one's called, but the little one like directly next to the solar plexus. And so to answer the question, I sometimes think that I have more energy than I do. And part of what I've been currently experimenting with is my mind will be creative. My mind will tell me to do and act on my creativity, and it will tell me stories about like, oh, I got to get this done. Like, what if my inspiration changes? What if I can't be consistent? I got to get this thing done. I got to do it like now. That is my mind. But my body, on the other hand, will be like, I kind of just want to like do something without an objective. I just want to chill. And so you kind of, I think, go through this process and you think about what is the real determination, what's the real motivation. And I know you asked me about my energy. So 4 hours does sound correct. And even if it's not fully complete, you kind of have to get to a place that you can complete your work, because it's very possible that you might have lofty ambitions and have things that you want to keep doing. But if the body feels like, for me, I know if my mind is overdrive, it'll almost like numb out some things. It'll bring more stress. It'll make me more analytical. And I'll no longer be in a body like I'm peaceful, I'm feeling rested, I'm feeling good about what my output is. So it's very, very different to like look at the signposts, look at the signals, pay attention to like the condition of your body as you go through the work. Now I have a projector friend. I've known her for about like maybe a year, maybe a little more. And she has the definition of her solar plexus, her will, and her spleen. She has a channel from like one to the other. And I think that gives her more energy than I do. She can go through like 11 meetings in a day, like 15-minute integral meetings. And I'm like, I don't know how she does it. I don't know if that is in her design or if that's like something that like is like will show her later if she can or cannot do that. And it seems to be effective, which is great, but it surprises me.
So would you say that in that 4-hour window, just to help me a little and anyone else, would you say that you're getting sort of like these pings or downloads of creativity, of ideas that you kind of may want to do, but you don't necessarily have the physical and mental energy to be able to go through with doing whatever that is? Like, so would it be a like where you might sit there and go, having all of these downloads of all this things that just I want to be able to create and do, and having like journaling time, and then that might be done. Like that's it for me. That was kind of, that's my energy. That's all I have time for. And then another day you'd be like, okay, now let's work on, does that still feel good or in alignment? And how would that look like? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's actually a lot of variations of how energy can be used, and it very much also depending, I think, on the authority. So like for me, my emotions will dictate my interests. And so like also the amount of interaction I have with people takes a lot. Like I was on a call, there's this group called Purpose Playground, and it's run by manifesting generators, and they're opening up to all types. So I'm the only projector. And a call was like maybe 2 hours. And for the most part, I held into the whole conversation. but the person who was like working on the website that co-runs the business was asking for feedback on his website. And so everybody's giving like ideas and advice and thoughts and strategies. And I'm like, oh my God, I sat in there too long. I don't have the ability to go to the gym. I have the exhaustion now because that happened at 4 o'clock that day. And I think 3 to 4:30. And I had an appointment at like 5 or 6. And I'm like, I need to take a nap before I go to the gym because that was exhausting. Like I felt the stimulation of their minds and the action. And I'm like, okay, I'm sitting back, and I could have just, my advice, my insight, my guidance, whatever, as a projector would not have been heard whatsoever because they're all doing energy. So I'm like, I cannot keep up with that. Like they have this idea and this idea and this idea, and they're all turning. And for me, the projector goes out. They are the penetrating, is one of the key words there, into the magnetic monopole. Another thing everybody has. The projector is the only aura that can be a cone and dive into one person at a time. And if all these people are talking, I cannot keep up with the magnetic monopole at that point.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah.
So the things that take the energy is very fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. So rest is really important as a generator. Not a generator. Projector. Did I say generator?
You did.
It's clearly my brain's shut off.
But you made a point, though. I think every type deserves rest, but the quality of rest and what that looks like will be so different. Like, I could talk about any given day and give you an assessment of how my energy was used, and it will not necessarily be the same pattern every day, but there might be some key common things. And being the projector, I actually started to keep tabs on all the things that happened in my day. So like I can literally go grab my planner. I've learned how to use my planner creatively and go through and be like, okay, this, and this, and this. It took me this much time to do that. This was my impact after working on my blog. Like this was the impact after working just within myself, just to like idea generate. This was my energy after journaling. Sometimes I might be inspired because I liked what I wrote in my journal and I want to go create something. So I can usually go and do that. That's an easy step for me. And then from there, I'm like, do I need to sit down and do nothing? Do I have to let my body rest? Should I eat something? Because like, I don't want to overdo it either, which is easy to do. Like super, super challenging to not overdo it, especially when you're just excited.
Yes. That's big for me because having so much energy to just keep going, actually find, and because I've done a lot of testing, I have a comprehensive DNA tester. And so I know that I have a later melatonin release, and knowing that I am a generator, so I just stay up way too late. I know I need sleep, right? And I have twin toddlers that are going to wake me up every morning, but am I going to bed on time? No, I'm not. I'm not going to bed at a reasonable time because I'm like so inspired, and I just like, I've got so much to create and do. And like, I have quiet time. My kids don't sleep during the day. So like, this is it for me to like just be fully devoted to just doing all the things and then trying to shut that off at nighttime. It's like, I really should go to bed. And I'm just like, I just have to make myself, because otherwise I will just go and go. So yeah, you really do have to just, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think the idea of like knowing where the excitement exists is like, that's what I would say as a projector. But I think for you, for generators and manifesting generators, the vitality that in life sustaining and the building of what you create might just keep going until it just gets exhausted and goes to bed. Like,
yes. And that's like, I will just go until I'm exhausted if I don't force myself to go to bed. And because my health is good, because my goal as a health and wellness coach is to aim for optimal health and vitality. And, that's with everything that I do. I ensure that my health is good. So otherwise, I wouldn't have the energy, because 7 years ago when I wasn't doing this, honestly, I was just a zombie burnt out person. So like, I had no energy. I wouldn't be doing this. So it really shows that when you have your health is good and you're in alignment, then things can really just flow. And that's what I feel like for me is everything is really just in flow. And I can feel the difference between when things aren't right for me anymore. Like, yeah, no, that's not in alignment. That doesn't feel good. I know what to say no to. Just makes such a difference to how I show up for myself. I think we need to really honor ourselves. And there's a lot of people who are used to people pleasing. And I know that that's big in human design, that'll be like a go-to response to people please, and knowing how to listen to your authority, how to tune into the no's is really important and plays such an important part of our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I relate to what you're saying. And I think there's so many things I can add, but like sometimes like the environment, you don't always know what your environment is contributing. And, you know, it could be from like a physical location. It can be the people. It can be like how you grew up. Like there's so many contributing factors, I think, that we have to decondition, so to speak. And we're never going to be totally deconditioned, but we can at least anticipate a better approach with knowing human design and seeing like energy flow is the probably biggest part. Like when I started, so my journey, I got introduced in 2021, 2022 era, and then I dived in deeper in 2023, full on. And it was seeing human design made me think, I have natural energetic limitations. I can actually accept that. I don't have to do the societal, conventional, standard, universal things. I can challenge that. My fifth line, the heretic, is like challenge the status quo, like question things, but also you're going to be misunderstood because you are kind of challenging. And so if you don't properly communicate and people don't really see you because you're going to mirror them, the fifth line has a bunch of little nuanced things, which I've been dabbling with. But when I really looked at all parts of myself, I'm like, I don't have the energy like I think I should. Like I don't have to feel bad about that.
I think that when you look at a person's job, so if there was a projector doing a 9-to-5 job and there's a projector being an entrepreneur, you look at the 9-to-5 person is going to be just, we're talking about in general, whether they love their job or not, going to be so much more burnt out because it's not in alignment with their human design to be working 9-to-5. You've got a 4-hour window and you've completely blown that out of the water. You're like, and so then how are you ever supposed to find something that you're passionate about that, like, at the end of the day, you don't have that time to yourself to rest and create and all of the things. I know this came up in our call with one of my mentors, and so for all of us partners that got to learn about human design and how it sort of applies with being an entrepreneur. And for those projectors on the call, they could see why this kind of entrepreneurship is just so perfect, basically, for them. So working your own hours and having your own schedule as to, okay, this is my window where I'm going to create. This is what I'm going to do. And then I know that, well, for me, I use my energy differently. I'm not creating all day. When you spoke about energy before and environment, that's how I can relate. So I'm inside, and if the twins are like, they need a shift in environment. This is not working. They've got too much energy to be in here. And so I'm getting out in nature. Like I'm shifting the energy. I'm changing our location, our environment, and we get out in energy, and it's just so different. They can play and just like, how can you not feel good being grounded in energy and grounded in nature? And so, yeah, that's kind of, I'll use that to sort of, okay, still feel in flow. I'm not in frustration. I'm satisfied. And it just makes such a difference, because then at the end of the day, I'm not frustrated. I'm not burnt out feeling like, oh my God, like I've made a conscious decision to make sure that I try to make sure that I check in with myself. And I think that that's important, is that we check when we're feeling not in alignment, we're feeling whatever that is for you, frustration for me. I go, okay, what's not working? Okay, I got to get outside. That's it. Like, let's go. And then when we come back in, I'm just feeling so much better. And then we can put our energy into something else. And so I think that it's really important to just keep the flow of what works for you, like slow mornings and then whatever it is. But You really need to know what is best for your human design profile in order to create a life that's going to feel good. Good is just a basic, because for me, it's like aligned and in flow and like all of the feminine kinds of, that's how I feel. That's not the same for everyone. Everyone doesn't want to feel like.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. It's actually something that I've thought about before because, for example, not everyone is emotionally defined. And if they are, perhaps their terminology will be much different for how they describe their emotional process. And I would say something like 80% neutral or 80% clarity feels like this. But maybe to other people, they don't see it that way. Maybe 80% for them is like joyful, I'm on cloud 9. For me, if I get to 80%, I'm just very like, thank God, like I'm relieved.
Yeah.
So like, I know what you mean, that flow state feels very different.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, for me, like I said in the beginning of the call, I would never be like, yeah, that felt very hard to me. Actually had to build that, so for me, I'm just super content when I can actually just be calm and level and grounded. That to me is not going to be an excitable yes. It'll be like, okay, I can breathe here. And like to other people, that might sound like, oh, that doesn't sound like you're having fun. It doesn't sound like you're enjoying yourself. But I'm like, you have no idea what it's like to try and master your own wave, apparently. That's not me being like mean or judgmental, but like having the compassion and empathy that fun might look and feel very different for every person, and being okay with how you express your sense of living, like your day to day. Like, I think that helped me accept myself because I'm not very excitable. I'm very serious, but I also have the part of me that likes to be light and playful and animated. And finding that balance, I can see in, human design that I probably do have different aspects of myself that come out at different times. And there's a thought that I had and it literally left, which is really unfortunate.
I think too that this isn't human design, but along the same sort of lines, our archetypes. When you're saying like people portray maybe how you look or how you feel, a judge, I have the resting bitch face. And so, and it's my queen archetype. Like, so she's like, she has high standards. So she comes in when I'm in my sort of my serious mode or when I'm doing or learning. So I always look like something's up, like I always look like that. And so my son always used to say, Mum, what's the matter? What's wrong? And because I'm just like there cooking dinner, but I'm thinking, and so I'm concentrating and I look like something's wrong. Plus I have a natural downward inflection. So I'm always looking like sad. And I'm like, nothing's wrong. And he would never believe me because I just look like that. But also playful, like my primary archetype, because that's my secondary, my queen is magician. And so magician is, I'm so playful and I'm fun. And magicians also like everyone's just to be happy, and they're a chameleon and they can just like try to emulate like the other people around them. That's a whole nother call, archetypes anyway. But I'm going off track, but I'm just sort of, there's so much that comes into play when we look at like how we look, how we think, how we feel. And that's just like our resting bothered face rather than saying the other way. Yeah.
Bothered face. Because I remember when we spoke about this, I'm like, I don't have that kind of resting face, but I do have a very, I'm confused look when I'm not really confused. And I'm just processing, but I might not actually need your help, but I'm trying to take in all this information and see, how does this feel? What does this mean? How can I respond? And it doesn't mean that I need you to tell me that, like, oh, let me explain this. I'm not looking for an explanation out loud externally. I'm looking for my internal way of thinking.
Yeah, I don't need your help. I'm processing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then otherwise people like, I can see the wheels turning. I see something's going on up there. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. So could you just give me a moment? It's so interesting how it all, like, I just find it can all just interconnects, really. Just that makes up our whole blueprint, really, when we were put on this earth. And really, I think that it's so important to know the people around us, so our families, those people that we're close to. Like we have a house full of generators and manifesting generators, and even my adult children who don't live with me are the same. And so we don't have any of the other human design profiles. It kind of makes it easy for me to just kind of know, like, we're all going to be frustrated, and you can see it.
Yeah.
It just, I find that that's really helpful to learn, so that other people don't just apply it to your own life. And if you're a business owner, absolutely take this knowledge and use it for those who you have working with you or for you, or whatever that looks like. If you're an entrepreneur and you're working side by side, then those around you. But if you are a small business owner with a shop front or whatever, and you have a team, staff, then it's important for you to know this stuff.
Yeah. I actually was thinking a bunch of examples as you were talking. So like, it's a very real thing. And my same projector friend, her motivation, we didn't talk much about human design motivation, but super helpful for transference in human design for projectors. I believe other types could use it as well, but I know it helps us to understand as projectors, when is it that I'm bitter? Like what will help, what puts me into a better place? So for me, here I am going off topic on a bunch of reasons. Like I said, I totally relate, but this is an application example that I think is related to business. So my projector friend, her motivation is hope. And in the beginning, she was doing this beta thing. I really appreciate her time and space and what she's been creating. And so she's been very transparent about like the process. She, at the last call, she said, making presentations and teaching on the spot gives me a lot of stress. And I think it goes into her transference of feeling a need that I have to teach, I have to perform, I have to do these things. But then on the last call that we had, she said, I just want to share a story. I want to share where I came from, where I'm at, and I want to open the space for everybody to do the same. And when she shared her story and her journey, it inspired hope. Everyone was encouraged. Everyone felt relief. Everyone felt good. They wanted to share, connect, relate. And that was her motivation coming through by sharing a story. And so she said, I can relieve some of that pressure to have to teach. If I feel, because she's also an emotional authority, if I feel like I want to present something on any given day, then like I can. I don't know if she said this necessarily, but I think she knows when it's ready, when it's time, she can present during the call instead of having it be an open discussion. But it's not something she has to plan ahead and create all these slide decks. And that's just an example of one small business agency related framework or circumstance that you can actually see how motivation actually reflects inside your business on the most like intricate ways.
Is there anything that we maybe have not covered, just to give some basics for what people can take away that gives them a bit of an understanding of how to apply this? So any tips that they can do that, I don't want to use the word create a life in flow, because that's me, but whatever it is to whoever's listening, that they can implement, that can go and do to learn more. What tips have you got that they can create a life that is in flow?
But establish a relationship with your authority, because that was my very first step. And I also understood the mechanics of the energy in the aura, because every aura will look different. A projector, as I was describing before, is a cone shape, and it goes to the magnetic monopole. And so seeing what does that actually look like in your life, it's so important, because if you don't have a good relationship to your authority, you're probably not going to feel that sense of success, satisfaction, peace, or surprise.
Yeah.
But like if you look at the aura type, it might give you a signal of like how your energy is working. It's really, that's a little bit hazy to me, but that was my first inclination of like, okay, I could see how each energy is going to receive information differently and be influenced differently.
I love that. I definitely want to look more into the other aspects of the human design, like when we were talking about the channels and the gates and all of that sort of thing. I do think that's definitely a discussion for another day, and I definitely plan to dive deeper just to understand it, because I know the basics. Really found it helpful and eye-opening, and it's given me I wanted to use peace as a word, just to know that's who I am, and then that's why I do the things that I do, and it all makes sense, right? So Thank you for today's discussion. Let us know what human design profile you are if you've gone and followed the link and checked out your human design profile and what's come up for you. I'd love to know what your takeaway was from this, because I just find it fascinating, and I would love to have a chat. Anyone who is, maybe you already know a bit about human design, you're welcome to share your wisdom. But for everyone listening, please let us know, where can we find you and your offering.
Yeah, so I'm in the process of developing my website. I have 2 blogs up, and it's called Sensitive Heretic. I do go into why those 2 words for my name. And then I have an offer of a 5-day journaling experience. It would be free at this point. I'm looking for testimonials and things like that. So it's a pretty easy value if you align with this kind of stuff. I have 3 templates, and we'll go over each one and tailor my suggestions to help you effectively work through and process whatever you're going through, or figure out your goals. Maybe introduce a journaling setup for yourself, or it could also be kind of a discernment process way of thinking. Whatever our conversation is, I use journaling to help in personal growth.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And thank you for today. I have really enjoyed our call.
Me too. I hope it wasn't too intense. Hopefully it's all digestible.
Yes, absolutely. I will put all of the information and your link down below so that people can check it out and go on over and get your journal.
Yes, sounds like a plan. Thank you so much for having me and your time.
Thank you. Before you go, if today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know your biggest takeaway. And if you found value in this conversation, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps this message reach more incredible women just like you. Thanks for being here, and until next time, keep shining and stepping into your power.